How did this all begin? What's the history of this ideology? I mean, why
Yeah.
has it got such a
Well, it
attraction?
started kind of in a benign way. If you think that Alfred Kinsey is benign in the late 40s, and he was friends with Dr. Harry Benjamin, who Kinsey brought a young effeminate boy to Benjamin and said, "I think this is a candidate for reassignment surgery." And so Benjamin began to introduce him to hormone therapy and found a doctor. This was in New York, I believe, at the time, and sent the boy off to Europe to have the reassignment surgery after he underwent the hormone therapy. But strangely enough, the boy was totally gone from all records after he went for the reassignment surgery. They don't know if he committed suicide. They don't know if he died. To this day, there is no record of what happened to that young boy. That was the very first case. Now, Benjamin then had a friend named Dr. Money who worked at Johns Hopkins in Maryland, Johns Hopkins Hospital. And what's interesting about Money, Benjamin, and Kinsey is they were all pedophile activists. So the roots of transgender behaviors, cross-gender behaviors, actually is founded in pedophilia. They were all very strong pedophilia activists.
What's the connection there?
The connection is the three men that I have mentioned, all felt it was quite appropriate for adult men to have sex with young boys. And I don't know if they were getting more sexually aroused by the fact that these boys were dressing as girls, which is a suspect, if that was just an additional arousal factor for them. But it's
For some reason, the two things have come out together.
Yes, they came out together. And so we know that the very first case that Money worked with at Hopkins was the Raymer twins, and the story about how when he changed one young boy from a botched circumcision that happened in Canada, he changed him into a girl. It was twin boys, and one of them became a girl. And then he had the two engage, and he filmed this, engaged in sexual acts together. And so we have, from its origin, we have sexual abuse, don't we? That I've mentioned. It started from the very, very first cases that we have in the country, in the U.S. And so what we also have is both brothers ended up dying at a very young age, one committing suicide, one overdosing from drugs. So they didn't even make it till their 40s, I believe, it was late 30s. And so
But this is a common story, really, because there's sexual abuse, and then there's the depression that follows, and the regret, and the suicide, which, as you've explained up until this point, is just not an uncommon experience for people to this day who go through the same process.
No, in fact, what's most interesting to me is in Harry Benjamin's own clinic, that was kind of the first clinic of its kind. He had a homosexual activist who was an endocrinologist working at the clinic for 6 years, administering hormone therapy to people who were undergoing the reassignment surgery. So he had 6 years of history with 500 transgender patients. And so if you think it's just me, this is so interesting. 1979, Dr. Illenfeld came out to a group of psychologists in Tappan, New York, and said, "What I'm seeing now after 6 years is too much unhappiness and too many suicides of people who have undergone reassignment surgery. I am no longer going to offer hormone therapy. I'm going into psychiatry so I can help the poor people." So we knew in 1979 that reassignment surgeries and hormones was a total disaster. We had it from Money with his own two first brothers, both died, sexual abuse. And now I'm seeing the very same things here 50 years later. People reporting they were sexually abused, they're unhappy, we still have reports of suicide. No one seems to pay attention. They just listen to the glorified activists talking about, oh, the government needs to support it. But really, do we need to be supporting people toward suicide and cross-gender behaviors when in fact the history is horrible?
I mean, despite all of this, it seems the only trajectory for this movement has been upwards. It's got more and more traction, it's got more and more social acceptance, and it's being more and more indoctrinated into the community at large and into children in particular. I don't know whether you have any thoughts on how on earth that just continues unabated.
Well, yeah, it's primarily whatever political party's in power that you know, it's going to, if it's the party that supports that behavior, then it's going to gain traction. If that party's out of favor and not in there, then it's going to lose traction. And so we have people like George Soros, who is quite good at funding money and pumping money into these parties that support this behavior. He likes that, and that's his sort of thing. So the way that this would stop immediately if we had a different party that didn't you know, promote and approve and support this kind of behavior. It should be taken out of the schools. It should be taken out of the government, unless the government is willing to reattach the genitalia of the people who they ripped it off of as part of their agenda.
So really it is a case of there's a lot of people in positions of influence and power who are sold out to the ideology, and
Absolutely.
because of that it just continues to creep in.
Yeah, it becomes political power.